What's good, fellow travelers? Welcome to the Bridge Masters. This is your one and only host, L. Maxwell. I'm going to read the news of the day, and you guys will tell me if I have an interesting take or you have a difference of opinion. Feel free to write a comment and tell me. Let's go on right to it. Former President Trump, also current candidate Trump for 2024, is got some bad news. His taxes came out, and this ain't looking like it's supposed to look. Now, you have to understand, this is like 7 years in the making. They were asking for Trump's taxes back in 2015 when he was running against Hillary Clinton. He said he wouldn't release them. He's under audit. You know, he just wrote down he had $10 billion. That's what he wrote down. And I'm not saying he didn't have $10 billion on paper, but for somebody with $10 billion, man, year after year, he's taking a lot of L's. And this is from his report. So, you know, let the numbers speak for themselves. 2020, negative 4.8 million. 2019, 2018. So let's just take a step back. Let's go down to the bottom. 2015, while he was running for president. This is the guy that's saying he could fix the country, right? Down negative $32 million for the year. For whatever reason, you know, you got to spend money, make money, cool. But then he gets elected. That year, he's down $32 million, right? And remember, what was one of the major accomplishments of the Trump administration was he cut taxes. So sure enough, when he cut taxes, that happened in 2018. So 2017, he took another loss. 2018 came $24 million profit. That's great. But here's the thing that I don't really quite understand. He made $24 million, but he only paid about $1 million in taxes. If I can take out my handy dandy calculator, we can look at this together. Oops, let me move that around. 1 million divided by 24. He had an effective tax rate of about 4%. So 4%. I don't know about you, but I pay closer to an effective tax rate of about maybe 17, sometimes 18. But before deductions, it's closer to 26% in taxes. And I don't make anywhere near $24 million a year in gross income. But at the same time, I digress. My concern is this is why Trump did not want his taxes out there. I mean, it's obvious. It's hard to speak to the people to say that I'm a successful businessman when year over year you're taking losses and you're paying less taxes than the average person. I don't know. I mean, is it big of a deal? I don't think so. Honestly, I think politics has moved on. People aren't as concerned about Trump, and I doubt he runs successfully for the primary. And this won't have made a difference. This wouldn't have made a difference. People have already made up their minds that they're not going to re-elect him for the primaries. They're trying to move away from him, similar to how they moved away from Bush. But either way, I'm interested to see how this affects it all, because, you know, I mean, from the Democratic side, if I were to want to be encouraged to vote Democratic, I would look at this and just say simply, you know, your candidates do not pay taxes, or if they don't pay taxes, they're not great at running the country. You know, this is who they had lead the country for 4 years. Whoever else they put up here, let's see if he had minimum pays more than $750 in taxes. So I don't know. Let's read the article. It goes here. In the 2 years before he became president, New York, Mr. Trump suffered heavy business losses, as it shows, because of his tax bills and deductions that were based on his income when it was above zero, as well as the alternative minimum tax over the 4 and 6 years. The alternative minimum tax limits deductions would have otherwise helped erase this tax burden. Here are the sources. So his wages, this is his presidential wages. So this is your normal earned income, which gets taxed at a pretty high nominal rate. Interest, this is probably from, okay, so he does have money. He's making money from all his interest and things. Dividends, business income. Oh, but real estate, so he was taking losses on real estate, so depreciations of stuff, which I guess which is smart from a rich standpoint if you think about it. I mean, he's basically just depreciating his properties, so whereas he doesn't have to pay taxes on his other income here. But you know, can't everybody do that? I can't. So it doesn't look good on paper. So most people won't be able to look into his I guess what they call this, his balance sheet, and be able to say, oh, okay, well, he just rigged the system. But to me, it's like, it doesn't look good to say for the first 3 years of his presidency, he's out here bleeding, and then all of a sudden when he passes his tax reform, he's in the money, you know, and then 2020 comes around, he's bleeding again. But 2020 makes sense because that was the pandemic, so you could bleed off. So it's probably interesting to see what his 2021 was, but that wasn't included in the subpoena because that was just last year's filing or earlier this year's filing. So anyways, what are your thoughts? Is this a big deal? Not a big deal? I don't really think it matters. All right, let's see what else is on the news. All right, so here's another article I thought was pretty interesting. It relates to Under Armour, the apparel brand, the sports apparel brand. Key notable, you know, athletes that are endorsed by Under Armour are, you know, Stephen Curry from the Golden State Warriors, and then you also got The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. His apparel brand is also heavily marketed by Under Armour. And apparently, I didn't realize this, but they've been looking for a new CEO for the last 7 months. So let's see what the article has to say. This is on CNBC.
Breaking news on Under Armour. Let's get to Sarah Eisen on the CNBC Newsline. Hello, Sarah.
Hi, Mike. Under Armour is naming a new permanent CEO. So here's the news. Stephanie Linnartz will become the new CEO of Under Armour February 27th. She is currently the president of Marriott International. She's basically the number 2 to Tony Capuano, the CEO, where she has been for 25 years. Now, as part of this shakeup, Colin Brown, who our audience knows, he's been on the show. He's been the interim CEO of Under Armour since June. He was in the running to be CEO. He will.
All right. So I guess her history, I don't know anything about this, so I'm just going to do my own research. So she used to run Marriott. So let's see how Marriott was doing for the last couple of years. Let's do, just going to look up Marriott stock. All right, for last, oh. So yeah, I mean, that's a good choice. It's a good choice. I mean, just look at the track record. I mean, so 2020, obviously this is a cliff. Because, you know, the pandemic. But if you look at historically, let's go to the max. Yeah, Marriott has just been growing really good. So Marriott's been under great leadership through her. So I can't disagree with this selection. Let's see. Under Armour names Marriott Linnartz. That's next CEO. So that's good. Good for her. Good for her.
He said as far as the CEO process, it was a full process. He said they started out with 60 candidates. It began as early as May. They worked it down to the top 20 and then the top 6 before hiring Stephanie. He framed this decision of why Stephanie around 3 priorities that he's thinking about for Under Armour. Priorities, he says, after having spent the last 5 to 6 years really in a transition period. He said now is the time to push forward. And those 3 things are digitization, product, and brand. The digital piece here is a big.
All right. So here are my thoughts. So I invest. I like to keep up with business. I tend to consider myself a sports guy just because what else am I supposed to do with my time? I got a bunch of kids, so I watch sports while I'm watching my kids, right? So I think Under Armour is in a unique position because let's just think about the past couple months, right? So Nike has had some snafus with their endorsers or their endorsees. I guess they're athletes. We're talking about like your Kyrie Irving, they just dropped him. We're talking about different labor laws that has plagued Nike forever. Like for some reason, they can never shake that part of their supply chain is probably not, you know, completely ethically labored. But you know, it doesn't matter. I mean, that's just the apparel industry in general. I mean, if you want clothes for $5 a t-shirt, I mean, you got to get labor where they're making it for less than $1 a day, like their total wages. So unless consumers are willing to pay more, I mean, it's going to be hard to convince everyone that 100% of their apparel supply chain is ethically sourced. But aside from that, so you got Nike going on the issues, Adidas. Let's not talk about Kanye, but clearly Adidas stock has dropped a lot after losing Kanye, or after they didn't lose Kanye, after Kanye lost his mind. And they're trying to recover, try to figure out what their identity is from there. Then you also have Reebok. If you haven't noticed, but they sell Reebok at Walmart now. I'm not saying that's a bad deal. The volume that you get from Walmart is great. I mean, you know, a lot of your previous brands like And1, what's that walking brand that was used to be real big? I think it started with an A or whatever, Anya or something like that. That became a big shoe brand over there as well. So now Reebok is supplementing some of the volume, because they realized that when it comes to business, you know, whenever they buy these textile mills or these factories, if you don't keep it running, you lose money, right? So you got to think about a factory. If it can run, let's say 100 threads a minute or whatever the rate is, but you only have enough sales to supply 50 threads a minute, you know, you have 50% capacity that could be running something, right? You may not be able to get the highest margin for your premium brands, but you run something, you get something out of it, right? Because you keep people employed, you keep the machine running. Once you buy these capital equipment, these large giant industrial tools, every second that you're not using it is opportunity cost that you're missing out on. So a lot of times you'll see generic brands fill the stores that are made exactly from the same, I guess, designer brands. Like for instance, your Huggies versus your Great Value or whatever at Walmart. Just use that as an example. So the point is Under Armour is in a unique position because they're not exactly a generic brand. I mean, they could fall to the wayside if they're not ran well, but they haven't had any bad publicity. Like anything that's related to Under Armour right now is just due to, you know, just poor sales. But their poor sales is just due to, you know, most people, you know, let's be honest, Nike is the best brand out there. People love Nike. So, you know, it's how do you continue to build up Under Armour while you have these large competitors in front of you. But I think Under Armour is in a good position to be able to capitalize. So this should be interesting. From an investor standpoint, you know, would I recommend buying Under Armour right now? I'm gonna take a trip to the store. I'm gonna literally take a trip to the store, and I'm just gonna compare quality, quantity, and overall pricing, just to kind of see where they currently are. And based off of you know, this new model, digitization, product and brand, now is the time to push forward. You know, Under Armour could be a good staple. I mean, Reebok's kind of, not saying conceded, but they just know they can't compete with Nike. They've been competing with Nike for 50 years, right? So they're a good brand. I like Reebok, but it's just, you know, Nike has just been so dominant. So it's just going to come down to, I think, quality, pricing, volume, and overall reputation, right? Under Armour has always had the underdog mentality. Now they got a proven CEO that has a good track record. Perhaps she can take it into the modern future. It'll be a good sight to see. But I'm honestly rooting for them, because more competition is good for consumers. If Nike was left alone on top of the hill, everything's getting jacked up in price. If anything, this past week, Nike, we look at Nike stock right now, Nike had a huge boost because their sales went up, right? So if you look at the last 5 days, look at this, boop, 116 from 102. For the last couple months, Nike was trending down, like this down slow period, and all of a sudden it spiked up due to the holidays. But that's normal. I mean, it's Christmas time. This is probably seasonality. So it's a good time to I guess revisit the drawing board in regards to what kind of company you want to be. All right, so this article is near and dear to my heart. Recently I went to Europe, and this is insane. Right now there's a strike for ambulance workers, or ambulance, however you want to pronounce it. And the advice from the government is just don't get drunk. That's a very hard thing to follow in the UK, because one of the main staples of their culture is let's go to the pub. You know, they just hang out at the pub all the time, and it's cool. We do that here in America. We go to the bar, but it's like, I thought we drank a lot, and you know, I went to an SEC school. I thought we drank a lot. Man, they drink so much more. and they have a stronger, I guess, affinity for these craft beers, at least whenever I was in London and in Manchester, and their craft beers are addictive. They're pretty good. I would say that I understand why they like going to the pub, because I mean, don't kill the messenger, but the food ain't that good, but the beer is pretty good. Thousands of ambulance workers in Britain began a one-day strike on Wednesday, with unions and governments swapping accusations of blame for putting lives at risk. Let's ask, why are they on strike? They don't have good enough vehicles. They don't have good enough pay. Let's take a guess. They advise people not to play sports, contact sports. Okay. Don't take unnecessary car trips just in case you're in a car accident. Don't get drunk in order to reduce the risk of needing an ambulance. Call handlers, technicians across England and Wales states their biggest walkout in 3 decades. Wow. Over the last 30 years. They're strike free to 12 or 24 hours. So, So, I guess for a day, maybe hold off from doing anything that could cause you to get hurt. But, I mean, what are you going to do? You got to go to work. You got to drive. You got to get drunk. I mean, what are you supposed to do? Like, just be sober? The system will be very severe. Advise people not to get blind drunk. Oh, okay. So there's limits. Just don't get blind drunk. It's a season of parties pre-Christmas, so enjoy yourself, but don't get so drunk that you end up with an unnecessary visit. All right, I still need to know why. Why are they on strike? They can actually say we choose to invest in the people, the health service, or different choices. Nurses have also had 2 days of strike this month. Oh, their whole health system is under strike. Okay. What? It's not just them. It's just like, I guess they're just, people are on strike due to just how they're disliking how the government's being ran. Look at railway staff, passport officers, postal workers. They're all planning on going on strike in a response to cost of living crisis. Well, I'm not surprised. I mean, the only difference is, so that's another thing that I noticed in Europe. They were always protesting something. I'm not saying I agree with all the protests, but I was very observant. Every weekend or every day, somebody was out in the London Square. They had signs, they were marching, they were, whatever. And it was just kind of like, people just kept walking by, or some people joined in, or it was pretty civil for the most part, but somebody was always advocating for something, right? I think during this time in October, it was primarily around what was happening in Iran, and also, of course, Ukraine, and overall just, the COVID measures that people are disagreeing with. Like I said, I don't have a position on it. I'm just saying that they were very openly protesting. Similarly to bigger cities in America, like in Philadelphia, they had similar protests just throughout the day for random stuff. I mean, just people was just with a bullhorn saying stuff, whatever, right? But I agree that this is probably taking things to head. I mean, we are in the face of a global recession. We're probably already in it, but we still haven't seen the shock waves yet. We're seeing little ripples right now, but we haven't seen the major, like, the tsunami wave that's going to hit us. We haven't seen it yet. I'm kind of concerned. My biggest advice to people is simply just make sure your finances are in order. Have a plan, like in the event something happens, like someone loses a job, what's the first thing you're going to cut, or what is something you're going to delay payment on, or what can you live without, right? I mean, you just got to have some kind of a plan. Obviously update your resume, things that you can be proactive on now. Keep your network in line with LinkedIn, different things like that in regards to employment. But also, I mean, just to the same note, I mean, take care of your health, because finances, they go up and down, they change. You can always make more money eventually with enough time, but time is a limited resource. So take care of your health and just do what you can to make it through this season. But overall, I mean, is all I'm gonna talk about today. I mean, enjoy your holiday this weekend. We're approaching Christmas. For those that celebrate it, Merry Christmas. But either way, Happy New Year. And I'm gonna try to do more podcasts. I'm starting to kind of get a point in my life where I feel like share your opinions. You matter. You may not have it figured out today, but you'll look back and you'll be able to laugh and say, what was I thinking back then? So tell me what you're thinking about now in the comments, and like, share, subscribe. who knows, maybe this channel, the Bridge Masters, will become something that people enjoy to follow. Thanks for listening.